When I was a little boy, Daddy traded for a house that had electricity. And that's the first time I'd ever lived in a house that had electricity. I don't remember how old I was. But there was a radio went with the deal some way. And of course, that was my first experience with radio. But I would tiptoe up and look into that radio and listen to the Renfro Valley Barn Dance, and then later to the Renfro Valley Gathering. And of course, I was singing then. I could sing from the time I can remember, or thought I could. And I'd tell my mom, I'd say, "Oh, Mama, if I could just get to Renfro Valley." And she'd say, "You will, son, you will."
Our guests today are a couple of folks that have been friends of mine for a long time. In fact, you may have met them at some of the Bill Monroe shows. Jim's worked for and with Bill Monroe and all his family for a good many years. Well, let us listen to them, and then I'll tell you a little bit about them. Jim and Ruby Ann Gaskin. Jim?
Yesterday when we were children, we played together, you and I.
Of course, I started my own little band later and got on radio and was working on radio, and I wrote to Mr. Lair and asked him if we could appear on the barn dance, and to my surprise, I got a letter right back from him saying, "Come right on." So we went, and it was in the summer, I think in September of 1955, and we played on the Renfro Valley Barn Dance, and I never was as thrilled in my life. I think that impressed me more than any place I ever played, and I knew right then that that's where I wanted to be. Well, Mr. Lair said he wanted to talk to me after the show, and to my surprise, he wanted to hire me, but he didn't want my band. He said, "I don't need them, but I'd like to have you." And I said, "Oh, Mr. Lair, I want to keep my boys." And he laughed. He said, "Oh, well, go on, get it out of your system. But anytime you're not working somewhere else and you're here by 6 o'clock, you can work on the barn dance." So it went on like that for years until, I don't know, it was the late 70s or early 80s. I was tired of working on the road and wanted to change. And he called me on the phone. He said he wanted to see me. I came down and he said, "Jim, don't you think it's about time you just throw in with me?" And I said, "Yes, sir, it is."
Inside the gate, just inside the gate, inside the gate, just inside the gate, just inside the gate, sweet home.
I just want to see Kentucky one more time.
Having received the plaque, the award naming me as the voice of Renfro Valley, was one of the biggest thrills I've ever had in my life. And it's a title that I wear proudly, and I am so very thankful for it.
Come along, everybody, while the moon is shining bright.
In the old hayloft,
We're gonna have a barn dance party in Renfro Valley tonight.
howdy folks, I'm Jim Gaskin, and once again on behalf of all the boys and girls, welcome to another big Renfro Valley Barn Dance show on stage of the Big Barn here in Kentucky's country music capital, Renfro Valley.
And it's a pleasure every time I call them to the stage. So I want you folks to join with us in welcoming once again to the Renfro Valley stage, old Joe Clark and his son Terry.
Boy, if you ain't in a shape tonight.
It wasn't easy getting this way, you know it.
Bond, that don't look good.
It feels good.
We got a fine crowd of folks here. What do you mean coming out here half drunk?
I run out of money.
Some no good ornery, low down speaking, thieving, cussing, cattle rustling, dirty dog put glue on the saddle.
C is for the Christ child, born upon this day.
But if dogs have a heaven, there's one thing I know. Old Shep has a wonderful home.
Then when Mr. Lair had the stroke in 1982, as I said, and wanted me to take over the gathering, he said he had always had in mind for me to take it. Well, I started in the spring of 1983, and I felt so totally inadequate. It just scared me to death, the very thoughts of following Mr. Lair. I could just, in my own mind, I could see mail coming in, hate mail, and radio stations dropping off, and this and that. But to my surprise, we started picking up stations. People accepted me, and I'm so thankful for that. And I still think of Mr. Lair. Sometimes when I'm writing or recording the gathering, it just almost seems like Mr. Lair is standing there by me.
Howdy folks, Jim Gaskin and the Sunday Morning Gathering family coming to you again by radio from Renfro Valley, Kentucky. We're in our 47th year on radio with this program, but it's a tradition that goes back to pioneer days, when folks here in the settlement got together to visit, enjoy some songs, and share some comments on life in general. We're glad you joined.
You know, Mr. Lair, Grant Turner, the staff announcer on the Opry at WSM for so long, he did it for a short while. And I are the only three permanent people to do the Renfro Valley Gathering, and that I consider that quite a distinction. I don't say it in a bragging way. I'm just thankful for the opportunity that I've had, because through the gathering I've been able to reach and touch a lot of people in a lot of ways, and I hope it's been positive.
You are still my little country sweetheart,
And you are still my little country rose.
when it's springtime in the mountains and the dogwood blossoms blow, we'll be back in Renfro Valley as in days of long ago. Long
I was born about 10,000 years ago. There is nothing in the world that I don't know. I watch Peter, Paul, and Moses play and ring around the roses. I can whip the man who says it isn't so. just a nonsense song, not intended to teach you anything or preserve anything, just to have a good time with it. See how big a lie you can tell, and tell it to music.